Hello everybody, welcome to City Structure and Change. This is a summary for Chapter 1 and Chapter 2. I will only summarize the key points, and for details, please read the textbook. It's a book well written, at least I think so, and it's pretty easy to read. And sometimes you can just browse through things and to get some general ideas so that you don't have to read the text word by word. So Chapter 1 basically covered the introduction about urban geography, because this is the course related to urban planning, so you don't have to pay detailed attention about the theories of urban geography. But you should pay attention to the key concepts related to urban geography and cities, and also how urbanization has changed and which kind of forces have helped their evolution of cities over time. There are some key concepts here that the textbook mentioned. The 4 concepts are space, territoriality, distance, and place. Space is basically a medium that economic, social, political, and historical processes are expressed in, but also it's a factor that influences patterns of urban development and the nature of the relationships between different social groups within cities. But the territoriality is that different groups in the cities, usually they have certain boundaries or certain control and dominance over certain areas. So that means just like sometimes, animals like to mark their territories. Human beings don't do that, intuitively, but they follow certain patterns and certain policies and certain rules. Distance means, cities and places, pretty much you have to travel from point A to point B. There's a distance, and which indicates that it's critical for transportation and for other things to be planned so that people can easily access key infrastructure and critical facilities, and also easily go to work, go shopping, and do some other things. So accessibility and mobility are very important when we talk about distance. And also minimizing costs when we transport things or when we do logistics of the flows of products from different places. And place basically is a concept indicating that a space and a place, they are different because place has attachment. So basically place is associated with the natural and built environment, and also associated with human beings and the activities of human beings. So that's why we talk about a sense of place in urban planning and why it's very important to do urban planning and to have public policies to promote sense of places. And in recent years, place making has become a very interesting and dominant topic over time. And so that means we don't just plan for space, but we also plan for places and at a human scale. The book mentioned about the different approaches to urban geography evolved from describing the cities and structure and change elements from the description to more quantitative approaches, and over time, and also more later evolved to structural approaches, like for example, looking at the structure of economies or societies and politics and other elements of the cities, and then determine the factors influencing the change in structures for those elements. And later, there are some other approaches like post-structural approach and some other approaches. But those are just the studies of urban geography and theories. And you do not have to go into details about those theories. And then chapter 1 mentioned about the different changes. Later I'm going to mention briefly in the presentation. For chapter 2, then the authors mentioned about the origins and the growth of cities and urban life, basically described the origins of cities and how cities evolve. And especially the 5 civilizations are introduced, and so that we know how modern urban planning is based on, which kind of cities and what was the structure of the cities, and culture and mathematics and some other subjects or disciplines and trade were evolved in those ancient cities and the civilizations. And now let me go through the PowerPoints briefly. And if you have any questions, please feel free to email me or post on the discussion board. And so, what is city? What is urban? What is city? What's the difference between urban and a city? There are different definitions, basically subjective and objective definitions. Subjective is based on what you perceive. What is urban to you? What is rural? Okay. Objective definitions is more based on like population and based on economic activities, culture, and some other political factors instead of based on your personal perception. So the most common standards for objective definition is basically population size and also urban function. Urban usually means people actually don't pursue agricultural activities. And mostly the urban activities will be trade, scientific and technology and administrative work, compared to the rural functions, mostly agricultural based. And urbanism, when you talk about urbanism, basically, it's high-rise buildings, it's the nightlife and, restaurants, culture, tourism, and arts, and all the other things which might be different from rural areas. Those are just some basic definition about urban, and you can notice that it changes over time. So that means that with the change of population and with the clustering of the population changing, maybe in the future, we will have different definition of different urban areas. And if you want to know the census geography, please read the page number 8 of the book. And city is different from urban. City is oftentimes the legal and the administrative boundary, compared to urban is more like a definition of, the physical features. So city is oftentimes associated with administration. Okay. And this is just the definition by some famous architects and urban planners, and Louis Moffatt is one of them. And Max Weber, the definition. And those are just some themes of urban geography. I've already mentioned space, territory, distance, and place. Those are the 4 key concepts. For the urbanization processes and outcomes, I would like to say that those changes have induced all kinds of outcomes and problems. And then we need urban planning and public policy to fix some of the problems. Recently, the challenge of globalization and also some other challenges have helped to reshape the political and cultural characteristics of cities. The urban origins, basically those are the theories. We know agricultural surplus and also division of labor has made rural laborers to go to cities, and the trade also was evolved. And then many of the cities actually are located along the rivers and oceans. And religious defense, all those are some of the theories why cities evolve and form. But remember, not a single factor actually influenced one single city to form. So those are just some of the earliest cities, and you would notice that some of the pictures, those are mostly related to history. And many of those civilizations had a very sophisticated culture, science, and political and systems and economic systems, and also urban planning. We would notice that some of the ancient cities, they are planned. Some other cities are not. And one famous example of planned cities will be mostly the Roman cities. The Roman cities. Okay. But some of the basic features about all those ancient cities, pretty much they have walls surrounding the cities. And a religion played a very important role. And also cities usually have administrative core religious areas, their suburbs, their workshops, and also slum housing, and some other elements. And then later, the book and also mentioned about the urban expansion. Basically, the 5 civilizations, and then people began to expand to other areas through invasion and also through trade, because they were always looking for something better, something that they cannot produce, or something better than their place. And so urban expansion actually started the first colonial cities and also colonial expansion. And later, we have medieval period, actually city culture and urban life revived. And Renaissance and Baroque periods, there's urban development even involved even more. Later, we had an industrial revolution, and then the contemporary urban systems. I think there's a typo here. I should correct it sometimes. Okay, so some of those slides just are about the ancient cities. And you will be surprised about how sophisticated their urban systems were at that time. Okay, so that's a basic summary about Chapter 1 and Chapter 2. If you have any questions, please feel free to let me know. And I'll try to shoot the videos short, but when possible, I can make it longer. Thank you very much, and stay tuned.